Good luck. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Thanks for tuning in. Today's tip is a good one. It is a tip that will help you catch more fish throughout the course of a day, regardless of where you're fishing in the country, regardless of species, and regardless if you're fishing from a boat, fishing from a shore, fishing from a kayak. It doesn't matter. This is something that will help you catch more fish, and oftentimes these fish go overlooked or just completely missed by a lot of other anglers. And before I get into the tip, I just want to remind you that if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you should do so to get entered into my monthly prize drawing giveaways. And if you're looking to support the channel, you can go to the link in my description for therealshot.com. It's a local tackle shop. Do some shopping there for Christmas, for hunting gear, for fishing gear, outdoor stuff. They have a really good selection. And if you use the discount code Stefan10, you'll get 10% off your order. It helps the channel out quite a bit, and I appreciate all of that. Also, I've got a few shirts up in my store. So if you go to my main YouTube page and click on the store, you'll see a couple of shirt designs that we've got up. So if you want to support the channel, you can go ahead and purchase one of those as well. All right, so the tip that I want to talk about today is a technique that I love to do. It is something that I've really honed in well fishing rivers up here in the North Country, but it is something that I've been able to utilize throughout the entire country. And what I'm talking about is fishing cut banks. So what exactly is a cut bank? And I think we're just gonna break this down into the 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, and why, right? Okay, so what is a cut bank? A cut bank is any sheer drop from where the shoreline meets the water. So instead of a taper into the water, you'll get a little bit of a ledge. And ideally, what happens when you have that is you have some of the shoreline washes away under the bank, and it allows the fish an area where they can actually tuck up under the bank. Generally speaking, we're talking about a couple of foot of water or less. In some areas, you may actually have cut banks where you've got 5, 6, 10 foot of water under a cut bank, and fish can actually go into that bank several feet. It's just a type of structure that species love. All 3 bass species will utilize a cut bank. Your largemouth, your smallmouth, and your spotted bass, depending where you're at, will utilize cut banks. So when you talk about the where are you going to find these cut banks? Because they're not everywhere, but you can find them anywhere you've got current, whether that's a natural current like on a river or whether that's wind-driven current, you can get cut banks, because what you need is some sort of wave action or water movement to literally cut underneath the bank. Ideally, you've got natural current. That's where you're going to find the most. So if you have a lake that's got current flow or you're fishing a river, those are the areas that are going to provide you with the most. But you still get these on natural lakes. The best areas to look is anywhere you've got a clay shoreline or a mud bank. Those are areas where you have the ability for that ground to be compacted more to hold up. If you're on a sand bank, the sand will just fall into itself and you're not going to be able to get a cut bank. But if you have a harder bottom clay or a mud bank, you can usually have a undercut bank. What you need to be looking for, though, is if you're just fishing down the shoreline, what you need to keep your eyes open for are either a weed plant or a plant that grows on the bank that will allow its root system to hold the dirt, to allow underneath the root system to be washed away. So you may have just trees, whether they're giant oak trees or small saplings. You may have really thick, good green grass growth, and I'm not talking like lawn grass specifically, but more if you've got like a sawgrass or a larger shoreline grass that just has a really thick root system, almost like a cattail type plant that grows on the shoreline versus in the water itself. But if you have plant growth, the plant's roots will literally hold the top of the shoreline together and allow underneath its roots to be washed away. But other good areas to look, other than say a actual tree that's living, are dead trees or parallel trees that have blown up against the shore and are parallel to the bank. So what will happen is that tree pushes up against the bank and you get wave action that clears out underneath that tree. So when you're looking specifically at it from shore or from the boat or from the shore or wherever, you may not go, oh, there's much water there. But generally speaking, you'll have about a foot of water that gets washed out underneath those trees. And you may only be in a foot of water or 2 foot of water. But that's plenty to have fish underneath it, especially if you're talking about the spring period. So, that's where you're looking. You got to keep your eyes open when you're going down the bank for potentially an undercut bank. A lot of times you'll be going down a bank and you'll be able to see exposed sand. And then all of a sudden you'll see a little bump out where you've got a tree and some grass growing. And generally speaking, that tree will have a little bit of an undercut bank. It's a high percentage fishing spot. I've got some example clips that I'm going to put in right here for you to see what I'm talking about. These are some from over on the Mississippi River where you've got a lot of undercut banks where you get grass growth, and this thick grass will hold the root system in place, but the fish can tuck up underneath the bank. Did not get many bites at all in practice doing this, but when I did, they were the right ones. Home. So as you saw in that video or in those clips, you could tell I was pitching into the grass and letting my bait fall down into the grass because it's literally going through the root system of the grass. Very, very good high percentage place. You can see in some of those videos where the current is cutting underneath the grass, and that's what washes away the bank underneath and creates a cavern that those fish can get into. Really, really good technique throughout the country. So why am I fishing these spots? Well, if you're fishing in the spring, it's providing a very good ambush feeding place in super shallow water that's usually going to be warmer than the surrounding water around it because all those roots and different grasses are grabbing heat, holding heat, and the fish can get right up in there. So in the spring, it's a great time to fish it. In the summer months, a lot of those areas are going to provide shade that the fish are trying to get out of direct sunlight, as well as if it's a current flow area, that's where those fish are trying to set up in the summer, is into the main current areas, allowing the current to bring food to it. And as well, a lot of times that's better oxygenated water. So the summer period is an absolute phenomenal time. And then in the fall, again, you get migrations of fish that will follow shad and bait fish shallow, looking to feed up for the winter. And if you're talking about water temps that are, right around 50 degrees or warmer, that's still a good place to look, is a cut bank. So it's a year-round thing. And again, like I said, it's not just largemouth. It's smallmouth, spotted bass. They all will utilize it. So it's one of those techniques, guys, that will hold fish for you when you're talking about how to catch them, what baits to utilize. A lot of times I don't think it matters that much. Your presentation is going to be more important than the bait you choose. Now, you've kind of got two options, in my opinion. You've got the ability to put a bait directly into the overhang. So like in those videos I showed you, I was putting a 1 ounce weight with just a creature style bait or a cross style bait into that grass and yo-yoing it. So I was going directly into it. That's a really high percentage way to fish it. The other is just to simply work the edges of it and try to draw the fish out. And in those cases, I would talk about throwing like a swim jig or a spinner bait are two really high percentage baits for that. But it's always good if they're not willing to come out and eat the bait. It's always good to try to go into where they're at, because more times than not, we underestimate how big those caverns are. Caverns under, say, a root system or under the bank. So it's always really nice, if you're not getting bit, you're not drawing the fish out, to try to go in after them to get further into that overhang. And that's where I like throwing a heavy Texas rig and punch my way in, because a lot of times if those fish are not active or are just too far back, they're not going to know that you're working the edges of those undercut banks. Really, really great way to fish, a high percentage way to fish. And a lot of times, like I said, other anglers do not realize how far back some of those areas, those places can be, that those fish can get to. And a lot of times they're just going down the bank, and it looks like you can see bottom all the way down the bank, and then there'll be these little stretches where what I call black water. You can see a black spot, and it's because you have slightly deeper water, a depression under the bank, and that's where those fish will pull up. And the average angler is not recognizing that. So it's definitely something for you to take advantage of, and just something to keep your eyes for. Like I said, if you're not on a place, say like the Mississippi River, where there's enough of it to fish patterns, if you keep your eyes open, it will generally give you the opportunity at one or two more fish throughout the day on any type of body of water that you're fishing on. So I hope this was helpful, guys. If it was, hit that like button. Stay tuned for tomorrow's tip. Thanks for watching.